What would you say if a cop smiled at you and asked one friendly question that could help put you in cuffs tonight? If you answer the wrong way, you can help build the case against yourself before you even know you're under investigation. One nervous sentence from you can turn a simple stop into a search, a longer detention, or an arrest. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could keep you from talking yourself into charges. Like this video too. Because when your heart is racing on the side of the road, you need words you can remember fast. In the next few minutes, you're going to hear the 5 twisted questions cops use to get you talking, agreeing, and guessing. You're going to learn the exact lines that shut those traps down without yelling, without arguing, and without making your stop worse. Let me show you exactly how one casual question about where you're going can lead to a search, how one fake friendly request can make you waive your rights, and how one simple sentence can stop you from helping build the case against yourself. You'll also hear the court rulings behind these lines in plain English, so you know this is not internet fantasy. This is about what you say when the pressure is real. Your hands are shaking and the lights are flashing behind you. When you get pulled over, you probably think the danger is the ticket. It's not. The real danger is your mouth when you're nervous and trying to seem cooperative. Most people have no idea that a traffic stop is often a fishing trip. The officer already has your license plate, your face, your tone, and your movements. Now they want your story. Here's the reality. They don't always start with, "Do you have drugs?" They start with soft questions. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? Why are you nervous? You don't mind if I take a look, right? Is there anything illegal in the car? These sound small, but your answers give them time, clues, and sometimes consent. If you know your lines before the stop happens, you give yourself a real chance to get through it clean and calm. The first trap is when they ask where you're coming from or where you're headed. That sounds harmless because you answer questions like that every day. But during a stop, your answer is not small talk. It becomes a timeline. If your answer changes later, they call it deception. If your passenger says something different, they call it suspicion. If your story sounds weird to them, they use it to keep you there longer. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and you see the same pattern over and over. The officer asks a simple travel question. The driver starts rambling. Then the officer keeps digging because now the driver sounds unsure. Here's exactly what you say. "Officer, here are my documents, and I'm not answering questions." Word for word. Memorize that line. You are not refusing to identify yourself. You are not fighting. You're giving your license, registration, and insurance if required. You're just not volunteering a story. Why does that work? Because your words can only hurt you. They almost never help you. If you say you're coming from your cousin's house, the officer can ask where your cousin lives. If you pause, they say you're acting evasive. If you say you're headed home, they ask why you're on the wrong road. Even if you're telling the truth, your truth gets judged by a stranger who already suspects you. Watch what happens when you stop feeding that process. The officer loses the free flow of details. Now they have to rely on actual facts, not your nervous guessing. Bad way. Most drivers say, "I'm just coming from my friend's place. I only had one drink and I'm heading home." Then the officer starts picking apart every word and looking for contradictions. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, here are my documents, and I'm not answering questions." Then the stop stays focused on the reason you were pulled over. You may be thinking that sounds rude. It doesn't if you say it calmly. Your tone matters, your volume matters, your hands stay visible. You don't argue, you don't smirk, you don't add little speeches. You just stop giving away pieces of your life that can be twisted later. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings about your right not to help prove a case against yourself. And yes, there are times when your name may be required under local law, but your whole life story is not. Keep that difference clear in your head. Documents, yes. Story, no. That one switch can save you from 20 more questions you never needed to answer. Have you ever had an officer ask where you were coming from during a stop? Tell me in the comments, because that question sounds harmless until you see what it's really doing to you. The second trap is the fake polite search question. It sounds like this. "You don't mind if I take a quick look, right? Mind if I check your trunk? You got anything in here I should know about if I search it?" This is where people destroy their own protection in one word. That word is yes. Or worse, they say, "Sure, I've got nothing to hide." Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. If you consent, you make the search much harder to fight later. You just hand it over the key. You look at the officer and say this, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Those exact 8 words. Say them calm. Say them clear. Say them once. Then stop talking. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it leaves no confusion. Your refusal is on the record. Your position is clean. This is 100% legal. You do not need to explain why. You do not need to sound clever. You do not need to debate the Fourth Amendment like a lawyer on the roadside. You just do not consent. Why does this work? Because consent is gold for the police. If you give it, they don't have to prove as much later. If you refuse, they need some legal reason to keep going. Maybe they have one. Maybe they don't, but you never help them get around the rules by handing them permission. Former police officers have confirmed this works because consent searches are easy searches. Refusal makes the officer do real legal work instead of using your fear against you. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Yeah, go ahead, I've got nothing to hide." Then the officer searches every bag, every pocket, and every inch they can reach. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Then your rights stay alive and the officer has to justify every next move. And no, refusing consent does not magically mean you drive away right then. The officer may still search if they claim they have another legal reason. But your refusal still matters. It can matter in court. It can matter on body cam. It can matter when a judge looks at whether the search was really lawful. If you say yes, that argument gets much weaker. If you say no, you protected yourself. That is the goal. Not winning a debate on the roadside. Protecting your future when the video gets reviewed later. The third trap is the question that begs you to deny something. It sounds like this. Is there anything illegal in the car? Why are you so nervous? You don't have any weapons or drugs on you, do you? Listen closely because this is critical. These questions are built to make you guess, deny, and over-explain. And if they find anything later, even something stupid and forgotten, they say you lied. Maybe it's not drugs. Maybe it's an old pill in a backpack. Maybe it's a pocket knife you forgot about. Maybe it's your passenger's stuff. Your quick denial now becomes evidence later. Here is what you say. I'm invoking my right to remain silent, and I want a lawyer. Word for word. Memorize that line too. If the stop is turning serious, that sentence is your shield. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when the questions start being routine and start sounding like an investigation. You are not being dramatic. You're drawing a bright line. No guessing, no explaining, no helping. Why is this so important? Because silence by itself can be messy if you don't clearly say what you're doing. Courts have said you need to invoke your rights clearly. That means use your words once, then stop. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. If you just sit there looking scared, that can get twisted. If you clearly state your rights, the record is cleaner, and once you ask for a lawyer, the smartest move is to keep your mouth shut after that. No side stories, no just one thing, no trying to talk your way out. Bad way. Most drivers say, "No, absolutely not. I swear, I'm just nervous, because cops make me nervous." Then the officer hears fear, keeps pressing, and treats every extra word like a clue. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I am invoking my right to remain silent, and I want a lawyer." Then the guessing stops, and you stop feeding the case. You should also know this. Being polite does not mean being chatty. You can say, "Sir" or "Ma'am." You can keep your hands where they can be seen. You can follow lawful commands like stepping out of the car if ordered, but you do not have to help investigate yourself. That's the line. You obey commands. You do not answer trap questions. That difference is huge, and if you remember nothing else from this video, remember that. 90% of drivers don't know what's coming next. If you're still here, you're already ahead of the game, so hit that like button because the next move is the one that turns a short stop into a long nightmare. The fourth trap is the delay question. It sounds soft. You don't mind waiting a few minutes, right? Sit tight while my partner comes. Hang on while I run one more thing. This matters because a legal stop is supposed to be about the reason you were stopped. A broken light, speeding, registration. Once that mission is done, you should be on your way unless the officer has a real legal reason to hold you longer. Here's the reality. A lot of people agree to wait because they think they have no choice. Then the drug dog shows up. Then backup arrives. Then the whole stop grows legs. You ask one clean question. Am I being detained or am I free to leave? Those exact 9 words. Say it calm. Say it once. Then wait. If the officer says you are free to leave, you leave. If the officer says you are detained, you know the stop is now serious and you stop talking. This is 100% legal. You are not resisting. You're asking whether the government is keeping you there or not. Why does that work? Because it forces clarity. It makes the moment visible on camera. It also makes the officer choose. Either you are free to go or they are claiming a legal basis to keep you. There is no foggy middle if you ask it clearly. Former police officers have confirmed this works because many drivers never ask. They just sit there and let the clock run while the officer keeps building pressure. Bad way. Most drivers say, "Sure, I can wait, no problem." Then the stop gets stretched out while more officers, more questions, or a dog come to the scene. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer has to make the legal status clear on the spot. And if the officer orders you out of the car, you comply. That part matters. Do not confuse asserting your rights with refusing lawful commands. Step out if ordered. Keep your hands visible. Do not reach around. Do not argue on the roadside. You can protect your rights and stay safe at the same time. That is how smart people handle pressure. Calm body, clear words, no consent, no extra story. Now tie all this together with the law. In Rodriguez versus United States, the Supreme Court said police cannot stretch a traffic stop longer than needed just to go fishing for other crimes without a real reason. In plain English, your speeding ticket does not become a free 20-minute investigation just because an officer feels curious. In Berghaus versus Tompkins, the court made clear that you should clearly say you are using your right to stay silent. In plain English, don't assume the court will read your mind. Say it out loud. And in Pennsylvania versus Mims, the court said an officer can order you out of the car during a lawful stop. In plain English, you may have to get out, but getting out is not the same as giving up your rights. You can comply with commands and still refuse searches, refuse extra questions, and ask if you are free to leave. That's why these lines work together. One protects your mouth, one protects your car, one protects your time. Let me show you exactly how this plays out in real life. You're driving home at night. Lights flash behind you. You pull over safely. The officer walks up and says, "You rolled through a stop sign." Then comes the first twisted question. "Where are you coming from tonight?" The wrong way is what most drivers do. You laugh a little. You say you were just at a friend's place. Then you add, "You only had one beer." The officer now hears alcohol, late night, in a vague location. Next question. "You got anything illegal in the car?" You say, "No way, nothing at all," because you want to sound clean. Then the officer asks to take a quick look. You say sure because you think being nice gets you out faster. Watch what happens. 10 minutes later, your bags are out of the car. Your passenger is getting questioned, and a tiny item you forgot was there now looks like a lie you told on purpose. Now the right way. You pull over, you keep your hands visible, you give your documents when asked. The officer says, "Where are you coming from?" You answer, "Officer, here are my documents, and I'm not answering questions." Calm voice, no attitude. Then the officer says, "Anything illegal in the car?" You answer, "I'm invoking my right to remain silent, and I want a lawyer." Then comes the search request. You say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." If the ticket is done, you ask, "Am I being detained, or am I free to leave?" That sequence changes everything. You did not lie, you did not consent, you did not volunteer clues, you stayed respectful. Next week, I'm breaking down what to say when cops claim they smell weed coming from your car. Subscribe right now because that excuse gets used every day. Refuse every search clearly and calmly. If the questions turn serious, invoke your right to stay silent and ask for a lawyer. You do not need magic words for every situation. You need a few strong lines you can actually remember when your pulse is high and your brain is scrambling. That is your edge. Not being louder, not being smarter. Just being prepared before the lights ever hit your mirror. Hit subscribe so you catch that weed smell video next. Smash like if this script just gave you words you can actually use. And drop a comment telling me which line you're going to memorize first. Stay calm, stay smart, and protect your rights.